Hi, this is Matt Donegan on Business Spotlight. I'm here with Mark Hirschel. Mark, can you let us know who you are, what you do, and the name of the business, please?
Sure, of course. Thanks for having me on today, Matt. So as you've said, my name is Mark. I'm the commercial director and one of two co-founders at Hownd. We make 100% plant-based products for dogs. So we cover food, treats, and all kinds of hygiene products.
That's really cool. What made you start the business?
It's a great question. Always been a huge animal lover. It's not necessarily the only reason why someone starts a business, but I did have a pet food franchise prior to starting Hownd for a couple of years, and for a variety of reasons, it wasn't the right avenue for me to explore, and I knew I could do this better myself. So as the old story goes, you might as well just give it a shot, and I did, and we haven't looked back since.
That's brilliant. So, what was the motivation behind the plant-based side of of the dog food business?
Yeah, so we look, there's a lot of brands out there, and I think we started with grooming products specifically for dogs. It was the old story that we used to send our dogs to the groomers, and the dogs would come back sort of itching and scratching. And we kind of looked into it a bit more, and we looked at the range of shampoos they're really available on the market on store shelves, and we started understanding about the ingredients that went into them, and realized actually that there's a lot of chemically laden product out there, which is actually not great for a dog's skin and coat. Yes, they might smell great, but it actually has an effect on them. So we started the business with by launching a range of about 15 different products that had might have had some chemicals in there, but we knew that they weren't harmful chemicals, or chemicals that would cause drying or itching or red spots on a dog. And yeah, that's how we kind of started with everything. And then we realized shortly after that actually everything that we're creating is actually plant-based, because it wasn't really the purpose of starting the business. The purpose was really trying to just make a better product for dogs. We realized then that everything was plant-based, and once we did that and realized that our customers loved us for being a plant-based brand, that kind of set us in motion, thinking, well, hang on a second here, this is something that we can see building that might not be readily available in the market at the moment. Yeah. What else can we do? And then we've kind of grown to other products since then.
So what's the business journey been like? So starting from where you were, you've looked at an untapped market, and then you've grown the business from there. Has it been a hockey stick? Has it been a long, slow haul? Has it been up and down? What's your business journey been like?
Truthfully, it's been a long, slow haul. This is definitely not a hockey stick style business, for sure. I think when you start making products for dogs, people love their dogs, and they're very precious about products that they're going to use, and they want to really understand who the brand is behind, who are making the products, and is it harmful to their dogs. And it's definitely been slow growth for us. I mean, as we said, we started off with dog grooming products, and we sold that through our own website and then through Amazon, and then we supported retail as well, both in the UK and overseas. And as we started building credibility in that space, we were asked for questions. Hey, what else do you guys do? Do you guys do treats, as an example? And we were like, actually, we don't, but maybe we should. And we started looking at the business, and what is Hownd all about? And we knew that was about providing premium plant-based products for dogs. We went into treats, and then we went into food. And I think with each step of the way in our transition of growing the business, I think that consumers, it's a very different proposition using a shampoo to actually feeding your dog. So there's lots more questions being asked about you and the ingredients and who makes it, and vets and nutritionists, etc. So it's I find that it's a slow build in that sense, because you really do have to build some brand credibility and trust with your customers.
Yeah.
But we've been growing revenues year on year since we began.
So with regards to the growth of the product line, it sounds like you've had to do a lot of consumer education. Did you target the consumer education piece first, or did you target the retail information side first? I.e., did your retailers and your distribution channels, did you have to persuade them first, or did they see the opportunity, and then you had to do the education piece on on your end customer, or was it the other way around?
No, it's a good question. It actually changed a little bit with the type of product that we were creating. So in the beginning, when we were doing shampoos, it's a little bit easier of a sell-in. So we created the brand. We went into we went actually into Pets at Home. We were quite friendly with the head of innovation at Pets at Home, and they were looking for a premium brand at that time. And this is coming back to about 2015. So we managed to go into all Pets at Home stores nationwide, which was phenomenal for us. And I think it was a great looking product at the right price point, with the right messaging. It was an easier purchase for, I think, for consumers, and an easier buy-in, I think, for retailers as well. When we start going into treats and specifically food that we're in now, it's all changed. We need to, as much as people are interested in the plant-based space, we're finding that to launch plant-based food requires a lot more of the education up front. There's a lot more research that goes into it, and a lot more definitely an education in terms of challenging what people believe is right, which is this whole dogs need meat. I mean, for decades and decades, vets and everybody else has always been saying, dogs need meat, and those three words have been with us for as long as I can remember, and we're not going to unravel that overnight. So when you start trying to say, hey, we've got a healthier option for dogs that happens to be plant-based, customers, and even if they are interested, are going to challenge you on that and want a lot more information before they give it to their dog. And so we've only launched food a couple of years ago, and I'd say it's taken a good couple of years to start shifting what customers are believing is right.
Have you seen that shift happen recently? Is that starting to change? Because I think with plant-based food for humans, there has been growth in that, but it seems to have plateaued. Is that the same for the dog food space for plant-based food? Has there been a growth and then flattened, or is it still on the rise?
Yeah, so the space for plant-based pet food is a lot smaller, of course, than in the human space. So, we've all heard of sort of humanization, and we do treat our dogs as if they're our own children. Normally, the pet industry runs 3 to 5 years behind the human industry, but there is definitely a movement that happens from one to the other. So there's a couple of things that are happening. So to answer your first question, absolutely, I've seen in just the last 12 months a huge shift in what people originally thought a year ago to what they think now. And I'm not saying that every consumer out there is saying, yes, of course I would give my dog plant-based food, but there is a lot more. First of all, there's a lot more of us out there. We're not the only brand doing this. There's a lot of brands that have actually come out of the woodwork sort of in the last couple of years. That includes some of the big corporates who are also making plant-based foods. That builds a bit of momentum and credibility, I think, within the industry. There's a lot more research coming out, which wasn't readily available even 12 months ago, which is scientifically proving, that plant-based for pets can be done as long as you follow the guidelines of it being nutritionally complete.
Yeah,
which we do as a brand. I think on the human side, you are seeing a bit of a plateau. And I think that's to be expected as well, because there was a huge race about putting plant-based, regardless of the quality of it or how healthy it actually is. And just because it's plant-based doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening now is that you're hitting that plateau at the moment on the human side, where manufacturers are going to have to start thinking, okay, we need to make this actually healthier than actually what it is. I don't think you're seeing that in the pet food space. I think it's always from day one, it's a healthy option.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of growth. It's at its infancy for sure. There's a lot of growth ahead of us.
And how much responsibility do you as a brand take for that education piece? Because if there are a number of brands doing this, have you been the guys that have been going out and do the not only the market research but the scientific research? Have you taken that on board? Has that been one of your tasks?
Yeah, definitely. So we're not in it alone, and we don't want to be alone in this by any stretch. So we need the power of many right now.
Yeah,
and that might not always be the case. If there's thousands of us at some point, in the world, we're all going to be a bit more competing with each other. But at the moment, it's 1 + 1 is greater than 2 at this moment when we have lots of brands in there. So we all put our piece. We all work with vets and nutritionists in the space. We all know that 2 or 3 or 4 major people in the space who do most of the research, and that's readily available for anybody. So we all grab hold of that and then repurpose it for our own needs in that sense. But it's definitely being out there. I mean, we'll always run blogs and emails and do advertising to try and educate customers, as much as we possibly can. Thankfully, lots of other brands are doing that as well. And you're at trade events, both retail trade events or consumer events, and just lots more brands being seen creates sort of a bigger awareness. So I think it's a responsibility. I wouldn't want to be the only one responsible for it, but I think thankfully there's quite a lot of us now that are putting their heads together.
Yeah, I mentioned it's quite a challenging environment. So you guys don't just do pet food, you do a range of products, and across all those products and across your brand, and in fact across your business, what are your biggest challenges at the moment?
Well, at the moment, listen, we're still a small business, like most pure plant-based brands are right now. So I'd always go back and say, listen, cash flow is probably our biggest issue that we have in the business at this point in time that we're actually looking to obviously rectify. It's a lot more expensive for us to launch into the food space and build that up than maybe it was for shampoos originally. So that could have caught us off guard a little bit and not realizing, wow, this is actually a really expensive game to play. So yeah, I mean, I would say cash flow, and we're still a small team, so it kind of feels we're almost back in startup mode, even though we're not really technically a startup anymore. But launching the food is very startup all over again. So we're going back to the beginning and raising investment and building out the team and doing everything we need to.
It's interesting you say about acting like a startup, because one of the things that Jeff Bezos is famous for saying is, if you're not acting like a startup, you're in trouble.
Correct.
So having that constant challenging yourself, challenging the market, asking questions, hard questions inside a business is a really powerful thing to do. So what's the future look like for you and for the business?
Look, it's an exciting future. I mean, we're now in the process. There's a few different things going on. We're now in the process of putting together, a fairly high profile team. This is made up of legal firms and global strategy consultants, and an ex UK retail CEO, which I can't name at the moment, but hopefully that'll come out soon. And that's with the view of trying to raise a substantial amount of money in terms of bringing equity investment into the business. It might be a 6 to 9 month project that will allow us to really push, new product development, inventory, customer acquisition campaigns, build out our team, and really look at starting to scale with some more speed than maybe what we were able to do previously.
Right. Okay.
It brings about its own issues and stresses, of course it does, but we now have this sort of strategy in place that might not have been there 2, 3, or 4 years ago.
Oh, right. Okay.
We absolutely want to be leaders in what we're doing.
Yeah. Clearly, you can see that. So as a business owner, what's the biggest lesson that you've had over the last few years?
Look, I would always go back, and even it's the one lesson that everyone always told me, and I'll never always say that's my lesson, but the lesson is cash is king, and that it really is. I mean, I can say numerous things in terms of lessons because we've had lots of lessons, but I think the key that I've seen in our business for sure, and actually seen in other businesses as well, is cash is king, and you can talk about everything you want to do, but if the cash is not available to do so, then it becomes all talk, and you really need to make sure that you're running a business where you have got the cash and having the foresight to be able to look deep into the future and know what you're going to need at some point, and making sure that you've got that, because otherwise you either remain stagnant or you take a few steps back.
Yeah, always a challenge in any business. So if you talk about sort of time travel there. If you were able to go back to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell them?
I would say, I'd probably tell myself, don't rush into business, even though you know that, even if you think you want to, don't rush into business. And I would say, do your apprenticeship, find a way to do your apprenticeship with somebody. So work for somebody else before you start up on your own. Even if you spend just a couple of years doing it, learn from them, understand the moving parts of things, ask all the questions, in fact, don't be afraid to ask questions, speak to customers, really understand what's going on, learn all of that, and then figure out, okay, how am I going to do better in this sense, and then go out on your own and run with it. But not to really just decide, I want to start a business, I don't want to work for anybody, and I'm just going to start a business and see how I get on. I think that rarely works out.
Yeah. Okay. That's great advice. I wish I'd taken that advice myself before in the past. So have you got any plans you'd like to share?
As I've said, I mean, our plans are now thinking for the future. What does the next 5 years mean for our brand? It's getting the investment in place and putting Hownd out there. And we've got lots of exciting development still to come. We operate across multiple revenue streams and subscriptions and Amazon, and as I said, we supply the trade as well. So there's a lot for us to now go for and grab and plan the business so that we eventually sell out, which is now actually the strategy in the 5 to 10 year range.
Okay. I mean, having a subscription model in any business is gold. It's absolutely gold. So I'm delighted to hear that you're doing that. I think the modern economy drives us towards that. Consumers expect it, and I think there's going to be a lot of shake-up in a lot of different industries with regards to subscription models. So that's brilliant that you're doing that. I can see why that becomes something that highly investable.
Yes, definitely.
Recurring revenues and being able to measure your customer lifetime value and mark that against your cost per acquisition, then you've got a very, very valuable business. So that's fantastic. So listen, thanks so much for your time. It's been a joy to hear your plans, really exciting plans, and I look forward to hearing from you a lot more in the future.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.